So it's launch day for Way of the Witcher, and there was so much that I want to sink my teeth into, but it would be wrong if I didn't first give you a deck list featuring the card that I got to reveal not too long ago. Again, Vi, or V, or Vey, or whatever. Lady Vanessa herself, or himself. Again, I don't know the lore, and you guys can totally flame me over it. Regardless, I do know the card, and it is, of course, this one right here. This beautiful, beautiful, beautiful beast. Insectoid, rather. Vi, whatever. Again, I asked Ryan about the pronunciation of this, and his response was less than, flattering, or less than helpful, rather. And so we're just gonna call it Vi. V doesn't matter. Okay, big bug face. So what's the deck? Well, it's Overwhelming Hunger, and it centers around playing Big Bugface in a very, very viable way to really just recycle Vi as many times as possible in order to get her as big as possible to get a very effective short round. Now, how does the deck work? We'll get into that in just a minute, but I will run through the deck list for you, and then we will go further deep. English is just not I was up early playing Gwent, so you'll have to forgive me. Nonetheless, here is what the deck looks like. All right, we have one Bruxa. Bruxa, of course, just dropping in with Thrive, Bleeding. Again, something that you can throw in. 4 provision card that can get a little bit of mileage. And Drega Eggs. Now, we are kind of struggling for provisions, so the 4 provision spot needed to be filled up with, I don't want to call it filler, because it is a Deathwish unit that can get some mileage off of it, spawning 3 drones. So it's a potential 7 for 4, which is nice when it pops off. Foglet, of course, a staple thinning card, especially in Deathwish or anything that can consume. That's in there as well. Noonwraith ×2. It is a Deathwish unit, so it can trigger Haunt, but 6 for 4 is just a nice body to provision ratio that can pop off some Thrive triggers as well. If 2 times Endrega Larvae. Endrega Larvae, of course, one of the best bronzes in the game. This is such a fantastic opening play. You get a lot of mileage off this card as well, and I don't need to really explain to you why this card is good. It's just fantastic. 2 times Natural Selection. Again, organic cards. I'll tell you why we have them, but it is just a 4 for 4 card that if you do have to kill a 3-point unit, you're not necessarily losing value on it. It's a card that does 4 damage, but if you're doing 4 damage on a 2 strength unit, you're getting that back, the change, let's say, you're getting your change back in the form of drones on the board, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Wild Hunt Riders, this is going to help you out to thin the deck as well, and having dominance should not be a problem in this deck. Parasite, a 6 provision versatile damage or boost. There's a lot of things that you can kill with this that are relatively problematic, and unless they're hiding behind a defender, well, here's your option. You've got Parasite to do the work, to go ahead and kill that Hamadryad, or kill that Dunka or whatnot. But there it is, 6 for 6. Slizzard. Here's a beautiful card that has sort of crept back into play. I played 1 copy just to try it out and realized that, Slizzard is a great card to have in this deck, because just not only are you wanting to consume that Vi as many times as possible, you want to kind of conserve your leader ability, your Overwhelming Hunger charges as much as possible, and this is one way that you can do it. Drop it in the front row, and if it's not answered, then you could start feeding it things, preferably Vi. So we'll move on here. Wispus Tribute. This is your typical 2 strength, 8 provision tutor card. In this case, it's for organics. The Wispus Tribute here will go ahead and grab a multitude of cards, such as cards like Natural Selection or Parasite, but more so also you can use Wispus Tribute to go get Whispering Hillock. It's a play a Deathwish unit from your deck. Enough said. You have enough Deathwishes in here that you'll never run out of options, but of course there's one massive target for it, and that would be Vi, but we'll get to that later. Alzur's Double Cross. Are you getting the theme here? It's a lot of tutors and a lot of consume. Alzur's Double Cross, play the highest unit from your deck. That will always, always, always be Vi. So you will be able to get her out ASAP. Mata is a great card because it will eventually get you those cards that are going to get you that massive amounts of tempo or help you with your strategy. Mata is going to go ahead and pick up Haunt, obviously, first, or Ownermancy. And Ownermancy, again, is going to go ahead and find you Vi. So if you have Haunt in hand, perfect. You have access to Vi. You have Vi in hand, but not Haunt, you'll get what you need. So Mata's there as well. Ihuaraquax. Ihuaraquax is a beautiful card that, dropped on the melee row, will pull Vi out of your deck for you to then immediately consume, but it will also pull a big card out of your opponent's deck. When played on the melee row, each player summons the unit with the highest provision cost from their deck. Now, a lot of the times, this is just going to be a card with a crazy deploy effect and not a huge body. For instance, let's just take a look at some of the big cards that have a lot of provision that are playable. Things like Philippa, Blind Fury. That is a lot of provisions and not a lot of body. Whereas you're getting your Vi out that will definitely outpace your opponent. So Huaraquax can really kind of, knuckle punch your opponent when it comes to pulling things out of their deck that they're not ready to play, or they're playing suboptimally without the deploy effect. I like to play Ihuaraquax in an early round, in round 1 or 2, because a lot of the times your opponent might not have that big card that they need. They haven't tutored it out with something like Ownermancy or another card that they might want to see. So something like Ihuaraquax played early will really lock out that big card from your opponent while really synergizing with what you want to do as the Vi archetype. Furthermore, we have Korathi Heatwave. I mean, we do not need to really explain what this is for. I packed this in here initially because with a new expansion and new stuff coming out, I have no idea what the hell's going to happen. So it's nice to have a fix-all delete button for a single card that really you do not like. Korathi Heatwave will get rid of a defender. Korathi Heatwave will get rid of whatever the hell bothers you. Should your opponent be silly enough to leave a Vi on a table, Korathi Heatwave will win you the game. There you go. There you have it. All right. We'll get to this card later. Ownermancy, it's a tutor. Use it in round 1, get Vi. Use it in round 2 or 3 to get Vi. Easy peasy. Haunt did get a provision nerf. It is a little bit more expensive, but it's just as pretty, just as nasty. Okay, finally, here it is, Vi. Deathwish, shuffle Vi back into your deck and increase its base power by 3. Do I need to actually explain to you the basic synergy as to why this card is so badass, especially with Overwhelming Hunger? Now, you might say, okay, well, if you're basing an entire deck around one card, you will just lose to a Korathi Heatwave. Sure, fine, maybe. This isn't like Aglaeus decks where everything is essentially going to be put into that one basket and you want to slam a huge card and win like that. No. The thing about Vi is she will never sit on the board unless you have last say. She makes a brief appearance and is immediately eaten by a Slizzard, by a Barghest out of your Haunt, by your Leader Charge, because you want her to recycle back into the deck and eventually become an 11, a 14, a 17, a 20, and that's how she goes. And if it's a last say scenario, pull her out, get her on the board, and just laugh your way to the bank. This is a card that hits the board and is immediately eaten. You cannot leave this card to be locked, to be banished, to be lifted by something like Yennefer's Invocation. You need to immediately dispatch of this in the consuming way. So eat it and get rid of it. That's pretty much how it goes. She jumps back in the deck. You could draw her a little bit later. And the beautiful part about it is you have enough tutors that you will get her back into your hand, and then she can go ahead and trigger Haunt. No problem. Now, I will say that the basic strategy, I sort of was playing around with this. I've had probably about a half dozen iterations of this deck. I had iterations of this that used Caranthir, that used Tatterwing, that used a different bronze package, that used a Alzert in the list as well, with a bunch of spells. Frankly, this was the list that got me the most success, the most consistency, and also the way to play this that I found was most effective was to really pedal to the metal round 1, get your consuming elements out there, things like Slizzard, to go ahead and recycle the Vi as much as possible. Use your overwhelming hunger charges if necessary. win that round. In round 2, again, pedal to the metal. You want to go slow. You want to go for a really, really short round 3 if possible, and bleed out your opponent. This deck did lose. Mind you, it was a pretty low roll lose, and the reason why I don't have Naglfar in here is because I lost a game to Shield Wall because I could have won it had my Naglfar picked up a 20-point Vi out of the deck. However, I low rolled a 2 out of 3 and got some pretty bad cards, and I lost by a couple points because of it. So I took the card out of the deck. I did not want to be haunted by it anymore. But here it is. This is how it works. Like I said, round 1, you want to set up a Slizzard, start feeding it things like get your Thrive train going, drop your Slizzard, start feeding it things like Foglet, perhaps the Endrega eggs. But you want to be able to start recycling your Vi. Now, yes, your Slizzard is going to be vulnerable to big removal. But if they want to waste a big removal on a 5 provision card in an early round, let them do it. Because at the very worst, you have gone ahead and recycled and got your Vi into a very big spot that is no longer going to be susceptible to that big removal piece. Again, if your Slizzard is huge because you kept feeding it Vi over and over, that means that later on you could play Vi, you could use your Overwhelming Hunger Charge, and have a whole bunch of fat boy Ekimaras there that are going to be more difficult for your opponent to deal with later. It's very, very possible for in a short round 3. First of all, it's very possible to 2-0 your opponent. That is definitely a thing you can do. But it's also very possible in a short round 3 to do something like Slam Haunt, Tutor Vi, Trigger Haunt, Eat Vi, Tutor Vi, Trigger Haunt, and you have 50, 60 points on the board that are absolutely just disgusting to deal with. So, friends, like I said, this deck is awesome. I do like it. It definitely needs a little bit of refinement, but that's going to come with time. Where it'll find itself in the meta, we shall see. But, again, if there's one tip for this deck, it's drop Vi, eat Vi, and then get her back in the deck. It's just all about that cycling. Again, I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit the follow button, subscribe, do all that jazz, and let me know, what is your favorite card in the new expansion, and how do you play Vi? Do you think that this is a card that needs a nerf, perhaps? And am I pronouncing it correctly or not? Who knows? Love you all. See you later. Adios. Goodbye.